So I want to get back to making videos about sports and culture on Saturdays, and there is no sports right now. One, because of coronavirus, and two, because of Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick has ruined all sports talk media in the last 5 years, and it is such a story that is indicative of the current problems in the world, and Colin Kaepernick and everything surrounding him is a reason why. Now, Colin Kaepernick is an idiot, but the real villain in the Colin Kaepernick story, the real villain is 90% of ESPN. It was the sports media that covered this thing so incredibly dishonestly, turned him into a martyr, and that's what he wanted to be. He wanted to be a martyr, and good for him for being that. But no one talked about the Colin Kaepernick scenario with even an ounce of honesty. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to break down why exactly Colin Kaepernick doesn't have a job. I'm going to say the things that everyone on ESPN is too afraid to say, and also give you the case why Colin Kaepernick is not a good martyr for the movement and is an idiot. And the reason why there's so much backlash to him is because everything he said was distinctly anti-American. Okay. Everything he did. All right. So the whole thing started as Colin Kaepernick was the first football player to take a knee. Right now, everyone's taking a knee around the world, even in Europe, because that's the symbol. And this started from Colin Kaepernick. Now, Colin Kaepernick, according to himself, now there was one case of police brutality that radicalized him. Larry Elder does a great video on that case where it was, two black cops confronting a black man wielding a knife who was walking towards a crowd before he got shot, even after they used non-lethal means. Whatever. You can look up Larry Elder on that. The other thing he said is he basically said, yes, at Cal, right? So he was going to Berkeley, and then he took one course in African studies, right? So I've been under the theory that Colin Kaepernick is just a really attractive 21-year-old white girl. That's all he is. I've met dozens of Colin Kaepernicks before, except this one plays football, all right? So this thing is he took one course in whatever studies, and that radicalized him. So let's go on that. And this was by the pro-Colin Kaepernick documentary, but okay. So Colin Kaepernick took a knee for the national anthem, and I actually defended him because he has the right to speak. I didn't see that as anti-military or whatever, and I kind of blame the NFL in a sense because NFL won't let you say anything. So the only real method of protest Colin Kaepernick had was to do something during the national anthem. So he was kind of boxed in. Now, the sports media turned him into a saint because he was starting a conversation, and I kept saying, and I still hold to this, where is this vaunted mythical conversation that we're going to have because of Colin Kaepernick? Instead, we never had a conversation. There was talks about a hypothetical conversation, but that conversation was already decided. And as I've outlined, what the conversation needs to be is, okay, you're taking a knee for police brutality. The conversation needs to be this. A, police brutality is bad, and B, all of us agree police brutality is bad in order to enter this honest conversation. So left, right, in between. Police brutality bad, I agree the other person thinks police brutality is bad. Okay. Then the conversation is, how much of police brutality is wrapped up in what you would term systemic racism? Okay, racial bias or whatever you want to call it. Now, it's not 100% and it's not 0%. And I think that's where the honest conversation needs to have. However, we skipped that part. What Colin Kaepernick and ESPN did is they said, Colin Kaepernick started a great conversation about race. Police brutality is endemic of systemic racism. The police force is endemic of systemic racism. Systemic racism is a huge problem. It is corrupt within all the American institutions, and therefore, America is a bad and racist place. The West is bad. The West is racist. And what do we do to fix the West's evil? And we have established that the West is evil. This is not a conversation. Because then you've just said to people, well, no, all these institutions are corrupt and we got to tear it down. And you're seeing the logical end to that with the tearing down of the Jefferson and the Washington and all of American society and everything is bad, right? We've seen the logical conclusion of Colin Kaepernick's argument. Okay, so my problem with Colin Kaepernick is he never got out there and actually articulated his point, right? He was a Rorschach test. He was just a giant implock that police brutality is bad. One, he grew up in a white family. So Jason Whitlock made the point that he might feel like he's not as black as his other teammates, and that is why he's trying to, be the martyr on these issues, and whatever. But here's the point is, this is why Colin Kaepernick is a 21-year-old hot white girl, right? He's playing football. He was great at it for a long time, so everyone was like, yeah, you're the greatest because you're an athlete, right? He's an attractive guy, makes the NFL, so no one ever tells him he's wrong. He says yeah, you're great. So then he's like, I'm going to take a knee, right? So what's your point? Oh, yeah, police brutality bad. Okay, you're going to lead the movement? That's all you got? I'm going to sit down until America stops being racist. That was essentially what he did. But then, not only would he not articulate his point and just sort of let the radical left take his knee to the ultimate conclusion that America evil, he then went around wearing t-shirts of Che Guevara, right? And Che Guevara was a man who went around specifically murdering gays and blacks. Che Guevara was part of communism, right? Communists hated religion. There was a perception that blacks were more religious than other people, so he just killed blacks. And this is totally in line with Che Guevara. Read Che Guevara, what Che Guevara says about Che Guevara. He loved murdering people. He actually loved the revolution. He would go to villages, and if you didn't join him, if you just said, I want to stay being a farmer, he'd kill you and your entire family. He is a man that when he's in charge of the Cuban prison system, he actually wrote, when in doubt, execute. Right? He never found anyone innocent. Anytime someone came before Che Guevara accused of anything, 100% of the time they were found guilty, and 100% of the time he killed them. Okay? This is the man he was venerating. And he specifically targeted blacks and gays, but he's a social justice icon because it drives me crazy. Then it gets even worse. So Colin Kaepernick is such an anti-black person, right? That when Qasem Soleimani, a terrorist mastermind, the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, a listed terrorist organization, when he gets killed, he called this a terrorist attack. Colin Kaepernick called this a terrorist attack, and he even went on to say in another tweet, America has always sanctioned and besieged black and brown bodies, both at home and abroad. American militarism is a weapon wielded by American imperialism to enforce its policing and plundering of the non-white world. Okay. Do you guys remember Sudan or the genocide in Darfur? Do you remember talking about it? Now, they used to talk about it when I was a kid, and then political correctness means like, ooh, we can't really talk about that. In Sudan, there is a domination of the Arab Muslim population is on top. The black African population is not. The black African population rebelled, and because of that, Omar Bashir's Muslim Brotherhood government systematically started to wipe out the black population. It was a big genocide. We weren't allowed to talk about it after like political correctness got amok because it became bad news to talk about then. But now, my point is, to help Omar Bashir's government, the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, who are all over the world, they actually helped set up the intelligence system to monitor Sudan citizens, right? The IRGC helped them, like, basically administer this genocide. Qasem Soleimani was part of the murder of hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of black Africans in Sudan. Okay? Oh, I know friends who are Muslim, who were in Evin prison, in the ward administered by the IRGC, tortured by this man. This man killed more black and brown people than you could ever imagine. One of the worst mass murderers, terrorist masterminds. The deaths of millions of black and brown people were on the hands of Qasem Soleimani. And he goes and turns him into a hero and says America's a terrorist for taking him out. Okay? So, excuse me if I don't think Colin Kaepernick is some sort of saint. Excuse me if I think he's just some dumb bimbo who's everyone been like, oh my God, you're so smart and you're so clever. Yeah, yes, girl, you take a knee. Yes, girl, you know about systemic racism. Yeah, like this is what I see. Colin Kaepernick is Yas Queen. That's what he is. He's just a hot white girl walking around where no one's ever told her, oh, that's dumb. Because everyone's like, she's hot. I want to sleep with her. I want to sleep with her. And then the girl's like, oh, she's popular, so I want to be your friend. Colin Kaepernick, he's a really good athlete. I want to be his friend. Yeah, sure, Colin, you're really smart. Whatever. It's just some hot college girl. That's all Colin Kaepernick is. All right. Now, the other thing is, why didn't Colin Kaepernick get a job? Why didn't he get a job? So this is my sports breakdown. No one was honest enough to say this, is Colin Kaepernick used to be decent. Now, quarterback is the most important part of a team, which means quarterbacks make a lot. If you have a good quarterback, you have a chance of winning. If you have a great quarterback, you have a great chance of winning. Look at the most recent Super Bowls, other than Joe Flacco, who ironically beat Colin Kaepernick. Everyone else was a very good to great quarterback, right? Brady, Mahomes, Rodgers, Roethlisberger. You're looking at all the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks recently. Eli Manning was good for 8 games in his career, but it just happened to be 4 straight playoff games twice, right? That's how you win the Super Bowl. You need great quarterback play. A good quarterback, an okay quarterback can win with a great defense. I mean, maybe circa Peyton Manning is last year. But that's how the NFL is. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're not a good team. Colin Kaepernick, by the time he's out of the league. Listen, I remember when he put up 186 rushing yards to the Packers in that, was it divisional playoff game? He was good. Then he wasn't that good. He got replaced by Blaine Gabbert in his last year. Right? He lost his accuracy. He couldn't throw an accurate slant pass. He lost it. He wasn't that good. He became a fringe starter. So, yes, was he the 25th best quarterback in the NFL? Yes. Would that guy normally get a job? Yes. But being the 25th to 35th best quarterback in the NFL is actually the worst position to be for a quarterback, for a team to sign, right? You would think the first type of quarterback you want is number 1, then number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, 6. That works for the top 15. But then you get into a point where those guys make so much, and it's on a salary cap. So paying a fringe starter money, you actually got to hurt your team because you're spending too much money on a quarterback who's not going to do it anyway. You'd rather invest in other parts of your team. Plus, if he's a fringe starter and he kind of plays okay enough, he doesn't play you into a playoff spot, but he plays you into mediocrity, which hurts your draft capital and handicaps you rebuilding the team to make it great to go further. So he was already in a weird part where Colin Kaepernick, aside from all the other activist stuff, was already in the worst position to sign as a quarterback. Take everything else out of it, a fringe starter is not kind of who you want. So what you kind of want with these guys is you take a flyer on them. Hopefully they take a pay cut, but you bring them in to compete with someone else for the job. If they get the job, great. And if they play amazing, whatever. I mean, there is some reward to Colin Kaepernick, but it's very high risk. Not a lot of teams want to take that risk, but you usually find teams that will. Now, Colin Kaepernick would have got a job. Why didn't he get a job? Because the best position for him to be in is a fringe starter, which means he'd have to compete with someone else. Could you imagine being the coach who has to look at Colin Kaepernick when this entire media shitstorm is going on and say, I don't think Colin Kaepernick's better than, whoever it was. Like, yeah, he was better than Nathan Peterman, but Nathan Peterman's a better option than Colin Kaepernick because Nathan Peterman is bad, and he's bad. He's a bad team. You get draft picks, whatever. You're set in that. He's cheap. Colin Kaepernick might be good. So, No, it's not like there was collusion in Colin Kaepernick. I think the Cowboys offered him $5 million. He thought it was below his value, and which probably was. But no one would want Colin Kaepernick. Like, I would never want to be a coach to make the decision of, do I start someone over Colin Kaepernick and then have people in my city attack me? Could you imagine if Colin Kaepernick was the backup quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings last year? Imagine. Kirk Cousins got off to a terrible start right after those bad picks in Green Bay. Right? And Minnesota city councilors are screaming about defund the police. Do you not think it's possible that some Minnesota city councilor, if they didn't bench Kirk Cousins, who went on to, I think, have a Pro Bowl season, if they didn't bench Kirk Cousins after week 2, do you not think there'd be politicians in the city saying, Mike Zimmer is a racist because he won't start Colin Kaepernick? And Kirk Cousins keeps getting chances at do-overs because he's white. You think no one would have said that? You think not one idiot would have said that? You think the coaches aren't aware of that? In order for Colin Kaepernick to play, he'd have to be one, a backup quarterback behind a starter that legitimately wouldn't, he wouldn't surpass. I was saying either Carolina or Seattle because Cam Newton and Russell Wilson are both black and clearly better than Colin Kaepernick at the time, right? So there could be no screams of racism if they didn't start him. There still would have been screams of racism if he didn't start him, but still, no one serious would have gone down that. But do you really think you wanted to do that to your team? Right, where the backup quarterback is a media circus, where if your quarterback struggles and you want to stick with him, you're called a racist? Do you think any coach wanted to deal with that? And ESPN never addressed those claims. They just said, the NFL is colluding and racist and trying to protect the flag. It's like, no. They just didn't want to deal with that. Like, obviously he was a nuisance. He did that to himself. And 2, Colin Kaepernick was an idiot. Colin Kaepernick openly supports people who mass murdered blacks. He openly supports mass murderers of blacks, like mass murderers. So don't tell me this guy's some hero of the Black Lives Matter movement when he's talking about how great Qasem Soleimani is for propping up Omar Bashir's Muslim Brotherhood government that slaughtered hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of black Africans. Don't tell me that. Don't give me this nonsense and pretend that Colin Kaepernick's some sort of hero. And it's ruining sports media. Like, you can't watch sports media now because it's just like everyone's taking a knee. And because Colin Kaepernick, and why won't we give Colin Kaepernick a shot? Colin Kaepernick's a hero. No, Colin Kaepernick is an idiot. He's an idiot. He's an idiot. Other people have spoken to social justice. I think they're wrong, right? Malcolm Jenkins, I think he's wrong, but I don't think he's an idiot. I think Malcolm Jenkins is actually well spoken. I think his fundamental outlook on the world is flawed, and it's created by leftist media manipulation, but I don't think he's an idiot. I don't think he hates America, right? You listen to Malcolm Jenkins, he's like, this guy hates America. He's like, no, he's a lefty, but, well, whatever. Right? That's not Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick's palling around with Linda Sarsour and now the other anti-Semites propping up the mass murder of black people and like Black Lives Matter. That's why we need Omar Bashir as the real president of America. Yeah, didn't he slaughter like 1 million black people? Colin Kaepernick. So that went on too long. But I think, Colin Kaepernick's an idiot. And when ESPN talks about him, like, this is why ESPN viewership is dropping. Guys, get off Kaepernick. It's ridiculous. Can't watch it anymore.